Feel the scars in my side. Notice the pattern. When you have doubts, like Thomas. When you blow it, like Peter. When you fail, like the woman that was married 5 times. We think God is so far away from us. It's just the opposite. God came to the people that had doubt before He came to the people that had faith. See, we try to put God in this box and tell God who to save and who to bless and who to forgive and who to heal. The longer I live, the more I realize God's ways are not our ways. God will save the most unlikely people. He will show mercy when we think they deserve judgment. Sometimes God will bypass the people with faith to go to the one person that has doubt. It's because God never writes us off. God doesn't judge us the way people judge. God understands when you make a mistake. He understands when you have doubt. It's interesting, Thomas doubted this one time, and he became known as Doubting Thomas. Probably wasn't a week or 2 of his life, yet people labeled him a doubter. The good news is, God doesn't judge you by one mistake. We call him Doubting Thomas. You know what God calls him? Believing Thomas, Forgiven Thomas, Redeemed Thomas, Restored Thomas, Amazing Thomas. What we don't hear much about is Thomas went on to touch all of India. He's credited as being the one that brought the good news to that entire nation. Now, you may have struggled with an addiction your whole life, but know this, God is not judging you by that one setback. Get rid of that negative label. Maybe you've failed in business, blew a relationship, did something you're not proud of. Don't let that become your identity. Stop seeing yourself as Doubting Thomas, Addicted Thomas, Undisciplined Thomas, Failing Thomas. No, you got to turn it around. Start seeing yourself as Blessed Thomas, Free Thomas, Redeemed Thomas, Successful Thomas. Too often, we get our performance mixed up with our identity. In other words, you may have failed, but you are not a failure. That's what you did. That's not who you are. You are a child of the Most High God. You've been handpicked by the Creator of the universe. You may struggle with an addiction, but you are not an addict. That's what you did. That's not who you are. You are free. You are clean. You are restored. Now, don't go around dwelling on your past mistakes. Quit replaying all the times that you failed, the times you gave in to temptation, the time you blew the relationship, the time it didn't work out. All that's going to do is depress you. Just like you have a remote control to change the channel on the television, you've got to change the channel in your mind. You will not be free from guilt. You will not enjoy your life if you're constantly replaying the negative memories of your past. If you're going to replay anything, replay your victories. Replay the times that you honored God. Replay the times that you helped someone else in need. That'll change your perspective. Some of you today, you would go to a new level if you would just get good at changing the channel in your mind. A few years ago, a young lady named Rachel Smith won the Miss America beauty pageant. She's a bright young girl and goes all over the world helping underprivileged children. Later that year, she competed in the Miss Universe pageant. As she walked out on stage during the evening gown competition, all by herself, with millions of people watching around the world live on television, she lost her footing and fell flat on her backside. She was so embarrassed. She got up as quickly as she could and put a smile back on her face. The audience wasn't very forgiving. There were jeers and laughter and boos, very humiliating. In spite of the fall, she made it into the top 5 of the competition. Her next task was to answer a question randomly chosen by the judges. She walked back onto the stage where she had fallen just a few minutes earlier. A judge picked a question out of the hat. Her question was, if you could relive any moment of your life over again and do it differently, what moment would that be? Here, her most embarrassing moment was just 20 minutes earlier. How many of us would say, boy, I want to redo that. I want to relive that. No, without missing a beat. She said, if I could relive any moment of my life again, I would relive my trip to Africa, working with the orphans, seeing their beautiful smiles, feeling their warm embraces. Instead of reliving a moment of pain, a moment of embarrassment, she chose to relive a moment of joy, a moment where she was making a difference, where she was proud of herself. In life, we're all going to have times where we fall. Embarrassing moments, unfair situations. I can assure you they will come up on the movie screen of your mind again and again. You got to get good at changing the channel. Put on your accomplishments. Put on your victories. Put on the times where you're proud of yourself. I heard about this man that had a dream. And in this dream, he was in a large room, kind of like a library, and there were file cabinets all around him from the floor to the ceiling, hundreds and hundreds of files. He walked over and opened a drawer, and they were full of index cards. He took one out and read it, and it had to do with his life, something that he had done. He soon realized the whole room was about him. Every thought, every word he had spoken, every action, both good and bad, were recorded on these files. There was a whole section of everything that he had done wrong. The times that he lost his temper, the times he was unfaithful, the times that he cheated. His deepest, darkest secrets were all recorded in these files. His first thought was, I've got to destroy these cards. I can't let anybody see them. I'd be so embarrassed. He went over and tried to tear up the card, but it was impossible. They could not be destroyed. As he sat there thinking about his failures and all the times he had blown it, he felt so ashamed. And about that time, in the dream, Jesus walked into the room. And while he felt this incredible love, he also felt, that's the last person I want to see. Now I'm really ashamed. Jesus walked right over to the files of everything that he had done wrong. He took a card out. One by one, Jesus crossed the man's name off, and Jesus signed his own name, followed by the phrase, paid in full. The time you lied, crossed the man's name off, Jesus paid in full. The time you were unfaithful, crossed his name off, Jesus paid in full. Before long, all of the cards had been signed. In the dream, this man said, Jesus, you don't have to do this. This is not even your room. These are not even your mistakes. Jesus just smiled and gently said, don't worry about that. The price has already been paid. It is finished. And friends, one message of the resurrection is your sins have already been forgiven. Because Jesus rose